Yeah,
down
the
he
prop
goes.
monk
Flag
just
return.
bled to death. That's how much pressure
They
they're
need
under.
to stop the flag stand fight. They should have recognized that as a lost fight a long time ago. It looks like they're going to have a base res in 40 seconds. They're not going to be able to keep this monk, because if anything, he could just sit in lava. Everyone needs to stop trying to save this guy and just run. People are going to be saved for after. So much pressure. One guy eating a bajillion damage. And the tragedy here, he's going to die anyway.
Thankfully, he survived long enough to where I don't think any of these people will get time killed, because they'll all be in range of the
And hopefully
resurrection
they'll keep
shrine.
knights.
Yeah, they're probably
So-
not going to lose the knights, but the monks are not going to be in good shape energy-wise.
Here's what
to make
JH
a
needs
push.
to do now. Since the knights are aggro, they need to make
Well,
one
one
final
knight
push
down.
here, and if that doesn't work, they need to split immediately.
And
These are their only two options.
Do our other co-casters see any other ways for JH to win, or does that look like the only way?
some sort of horrible split response like we saw in Sub's game. That's I
A
don't know.
base res spike on the prop monk or the heal monk may.
The issue is that now we are looking at a morale boost. That Mesmer is no longer,
Oh.
you know,
That
that wow.
In dagger.
What is with that? Seriously, like, they kind of knew that this, you know, off of res pushing was going to happen. And now they're running a flag with a warrior again. They can't win this doing more of the same. He's already getting cowarded. He's stabilityed with a snare on him. He's not making much headway anyway.
I guess they feel like if EST gets 2 boosts in a row, they'll be almost... Their entire party will be at plus 10% morale, which is really hard to spike through, so they're trying to get the flag in at all costs. To at least
at all
preserve
costs
some
is going to be
DP.
the game. They're going to cost the game to
I
get
don't
this
agree
flag
with
in.
it.
I would like to see them go for a spike
I
on
think
the
that's
prop.
what they're feeling, but I don't think it's the right decision.
This warrior's going to die if he keeps pushing this. Yeah, they're not... He can't get this in. This
Yeah, he's
it's
got a
going to
range.
cost them a team wipe to get this flag in.
That was when they first res. That was their one chance to get chain kills onto EST, and running flag on a warrior that just completely nullified that chance.
Ooh, little lack of confidence on his monk's part as he pushes up here. Getting some decent pressure, gets a shock on the assassin to try and move it in, which he will, and it gets overcapped immediately.
Yeah, essentially that flag didn't do anything but prevent that one boost. So in essence, they gained 15 DP on Skycrown. That's it.
And the monk won. So we're really this is well, here's the thing. It's a lack of what does EST have to interrupt Death Pact with?
Mesmer, I think.
So the Mez has some sort of signet interrupt.
Yes.
Or a cry.
Deep Sacred Cry.
I think we already know who the MVP for this game is, regardless of what happens.
Cycron has
A
done so
monk is
much
just
work.
square blocked here. He can't. Oh, that's so much damage.
Oh, double
and
kill
down he
after
goes.
time. That might be game.
Yeah, that was the Death Pact. And there are instances where you want to let people Death Pact. If you know that they're in a terrible position here, you want to let them Death Pact, because that way you can kill 2 people. If you're so confident in killing the guy that freshly reses, you can let Death Pacts go. And part of me thinks if they had some way to interrupt Death Pact, they simply wouldn't have in that position, just to get that double kill. That was a big...
Notice that Mikey the Beast is trying to split to pull off damage,
He's gonna die
and
in lava.
he's succeeded at pulling off
Oh, no.
Cycron, but Cycron might just catch him and kill him. He's gonna
Nah.
make it back in time.
And in fact, looks like Cycron's feeling a little confident he's going to push on this assassin. Dodges the pin down, I assume. Yep. And the
Monk
knight
just cast through backfire into
is
suicide.
down. Knight down. So that's both knights down.
It's interesting
Or
they've stayed alive this long.
here's the funny thing. This build was engineered by JH to counter hexes, right?
Yes.
Most likely, considering the
So
amount of
then-
extra mode they have.
So then, how come it didn't counter hexes?
I don't think their spike is effective enough, and they're just letting Skycrown reign free on the flagger.
So you think it was... So it wasn't really a build thing.
I definitely think it was a build thing. They don't have any real damage, honestly.
God, that's so much damage.
Lord
And
goes down.
If you don't have damage
EST.
to eventually kill the Hexers off of you, no matter how much Hex removal you bring, it's all going to stack up eventually.
I think at some point, Break of Disruption is better than bringing more hex removals.
Or even more damage.
Well, they felt like it didn't seem like Barty was a very big factor in that game. Like, sure, he was doing the damage, but they really didn't have the threat to... Like, they landed some quaint spike kills, but it wasn't really a, oh god, guys, we better play really careful around these guys, they have a big spike. It was like, they kind of have a little wishy-washy sort of offense, and maybe they'll spike you if you're clumsy. I mean, if you run a spike, you need to run a spike where the other team's constantly thinking about the possibility of you killing them. It didn't really seem like they had that sort of presence on the field. That's an interesting thought, though. If you're being trained by a coward, would you ever just, like, not move on fear of being knocked down? I don't really see the logic in that, eating some free hits. Like, you might as well, if you can fake out the coward, you should go for that instead of stand there. It seems like that's a lot of damage to take in.
One thing I was questioning was their Smiter's usage of the deny hexes. Like, almost all of Nest's shutdown is hex-based, and in principle, having JH would only have one warrior at stand since the other one was always running, but having such a deep hex removal, like 3 hexes with deny hexes, should have been able to keep him clean for proper spikes. But it never seemed like it was being used that way.
I wonder if he was reserving Smite Hex to be used offensively, which is kind of like the give and take, especially when you have where your hex is buried like that. Now, how many people on JH's team actually had damage to contribute to the spike, like the Mesmer?
Five of them.
Did the... what about the Monk?
Monks didn't have any.
They don't
I'm gonna-
have castigation. I know you were thinking that.
Yeah. I don't know, there were a lot of almosts.
I'm going to take
None
an
of pressure.
aggressive opinion here and just say that I think Smite Monks are awful currently, and that like any team who's running a Smite Monk is basically taking a character out of their build. Even if he's removing hexes, I don't think it's worth it to spec a slot for a Smite Monk right now.
I thought it was relatively boring.
Little 8v8 heavy.
Too many hexes.
Too many Smiters.
Hexes aren't fun to watch.
The sub game was good.
Yeah, that miracle win there by JH. Now, here's a random question. If Sup made it to finals, how do you think the finals would have turned out?
A little different, but
Probably a lot more death on both teams instead of death on one team.
but I think I said before it would be Hexway versus the counter to Hexway.
That's interesting, though, that some, because obviously in their head, the definition to counter Hex was that build that they ran, and they lost to Hexes. What's that say about the perception of what counters Hex is?
Skytron just pushed the flagger all game. Like, they did nothing.
Definitely MVP there.
Yeah, they
Really
did nothing.
ballsy play. Well, that Necro's pushed up, too. Mostly to support him.
I wanted to see the Water Ellie be more proactive against Skytron. I don't know how they took a solo death, to be honest.
Yeah, that was kind of weird. Nobody expected that to happen because, well, mostly his role was to threaten the kill and make people
he
deal
doesn't
with him.
even have the capacity to get a solo kill unless the flagger messes up.
Does he have a knockdown of any sort?
Yes.
He has
He does.
horns? Oh, trampling. Oh, and lava. I think really it was a lack of offense. It wasn't the fact that they died. It was the fact that they couldn't kill them.
I think it was basically a combination of the fact that their build didn't have much of a kill threat to begin with, combined with the fact that they were constantly running on that warrior, to where they just didn't have any threat at all.
if they were going to concede the stand, you don't concede the stand halfway. Like, you run with the warrior. That means you have some sort of long-term plan where either you're so confident about your offense that you can kill with one guy, or you have some other plan where you're just burning the clock down, which is kind of more reminiscent to 28 minutes.
Right, but I mean, I'm still confused. They should have been able to get more spikes.
I'd like to just interject here. I did a quick post-match interview with one of the Necros, Necro 4 on Est, Golden Stomp, and I congratulated him on his win, and he said, yeah, we weren't sure what to run, so we did a /roll 2. 1 would have been triple melee, and 2 would have been hexes. So I really admire EST there. Just going with whatever and then winning with it anyway.
No wonder we lost, Joe. We weren't rolling for builds, we were actually picking them.
And we picked terrible builds. Advice to new GVers, stick with builds that you know. Don't try and get fancy and make up different builds in the middle of the monthly. He'll do poorly.